Hey, 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 it's John Perinci back on our big show, the 10th show. That's right, John, we're on number 10 now. Fantastic. You actually went through 9 shows before without screwing up and wanting to listen to more. Yes, so thank you so much to be here. We had some great comedians, as you know, over the past 9 shows. I started this back in March, and now it's August 1st. Unbelievable. Yeah, I just took my time with the shows and got the right people I've known, and some of these comedians I've known for quite a long time, and it's great to have them here. And actually just got back from my good old town of Rochester, New York. That's right, Kodak Town. Yes, Xerox City, as people call it. Of course, he has some great things there. University of Rochester, one of the best medical schools in the country. Eastman School of Music. Now, isn't that funny? Because I am in here in the Studio City Sound, and they have the best music abilities here to produce and arrange. Actually, I didn't mention this before, but I wanted to mention that a lot of major artists were here. Rod Stewart produces album here, and he was here just a few weeks ago doing some other things. So that's pretty amazing. So, yeah, Eastman School of Music, it's great. And it's great to go back there and see my mom and my family and my good old friends from the old days.
And Donald Trump.
And yeah, Donald Trump, right? You're fired. Yeah. Donald, yeah. Can't believe it. What are you doing, John? Going to Rochester. You're a bum. So, but yeah, it's good to go back and some of the old days to see my old friends and things. I'm telling you, I go back and I see these great. I saw my high school, my grade school where I went. I saw houses that I keep on thinking it's going to change, and the neighborhoods look the same 50 years later. It's amazing. Yes, my parents bought our house in 1965. It's amazing, but it's great to go there. See, the thing about this is that when you get into your 40s and 50s, like me, hi, how are you? I'm 55, yeah. No, I don't talk like that. But you do have these great old memories, and there's nothing better about that. That's why I love the old TV shows that I listen to, and a lot of guys and a lot of people I talk to about this can relate. You know, when I go back to Rochester and when I go back to some other places that I've been to before, I love watching these old TV shows like Dick Van Dyke. You know, oh Rob, and good old
Bewitched.
Lori Petrie, Bewitched, exactly. Andy Griffith's show, Andy, Barn, you beat everything. You know that? You beat everything. It's just amazing that I watch these shows, and I'm telling you that they're still funny 50 years later. And I hate to say it, but they are funnier than the new shows on TV the past 10, 15, 20 years. Not all the shows. Of course, Seinfeld sticks out, okay? And you get All in the Family and things like that, okay? But the new shows, they didn't have reality shows back then. They just had
Candid Camera.
Family, exactly. Family shows, clean, funny. Everyone can relate to it. Everyone can watch it. And that's why it sticks in my mind all these years later. It's just...
That girl.
Exactly. That girl. Remember that? That girl. That girl. My Mother the Car. I mean, again, Bewitched. I mean, it's just incredible.
I never made a difference between when they were repeats or they were new. Like when I was watching That Girl and Andy Griffith, they were repeats. But to me, because I was a kid, I thought, to me, it was all the same factory, so they were new. Right. And I would watch all, like Batman, I'd watch all of those.
Right.
I didn't know they'd been on for 3 or 4 years. You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's It's just amazing. Now, here's a very cool story. Speaking of the old days of Hollywood. So I go, before I went to New York to visit family, I went to LA Fitness. And I've been going there for about 3 or 4 years, and I've never really met any really cool people or interesting people out of the hundreds of times that I've gone there over the years. So I go in there, and I'm talking to this actor guy, and we're talking about Jersey Boys. And he knew some people from New Jersey and so on. And I told him I was in the movie, and I get to hang out with Clint Eastwood, and Christopher Walken, in the movie. Hi. So he thought it was pretty cool. Then he goes, hey, John, there's a guy that's been in the industry for over 35 to 40 years. I go, what? I said, yeah, he's an actor. I go, gee, I want to talk to this guy. So I go, okay. I go into the jacuzzi. I'm hanging out. And I say, well, who's this Stanley guy? And the guy looks at me and he goes, it's me. I go, well, my friend told me that you were in the industry for many years ago. He goes, yeah. And he's like 60, 62 years old. I go, really? I said, what show are you in? I thought he was going to say like reality show, or I thought he was going to say something recent, that kind of thing. He goes, well, do you know the old shows? I go, yeah. Do you know a show that was back in the 1960s? Yeah. Which show? My Three Sons. I go, you got to be kidding me. Are you Stanley Livingston? He goes, yeah. I said, you're one of the sons? And My Three Sons? I go, yeah. I said, I was blown away that I'm hanging out and talking to this guy. And he was on the show for about 12 years. And he's talking about being on My Three Sons and working with Fred McMurray. And his brother, he told me that his brother was in Jersey Boys, the movie, with me. And I didn't even know that either, Barry Livingston. So I couldn't believe it. So it was really cool. And he was talking to me about old Hollywood.
Wait, Barry Levinson?
Livingston.
Oh, Livingston, okay.
Yeah. And he's talking about the old Hollywood, and he's talking about how people made a lot of money back then. As you know, SAG and AFTRA kind of changed things around, so it was very, very hard. It was very personal back then. Everyone knew each other. Of course, there wasn't that many actors back then. We're talking 50 years ago. But everyone was really trying to help each other out, and he was working with the great people like Fred McMurray and other people, and he told me all these amazing stories. It was like, and I remember talking to somebody on the set a couple of years ago, an older gentleman. He said the same thing, that you could sit down and you could talk to people, and casting directors would bring you in for general meetings and things like that. They never do that now. They're too busy. They don't care. See, back then, they cared. That's why the shows lasted 50, 60 years. There were good writers, good actors, and good people, and everyone cared about that. So it was totally different. So it was just really cool to hear that, to talk about that, and it just, inspired me to do my own shows and things that I'm doing, and doing this podcast to kind of spread the word, that we like to keep inspirational, motivational, and make things happen that you love, which is why I wanted to invite another friend of mine. Welcome, Mr. Gene Pompa. Say hello, Gene.
Hello.
Good. So, Gene, I've known you for you've been a comedian for quite a long time, over 25 years, but I've known you for over 10 years, and we used to hang out at the Improv together. Remember that? And then, and we started talking and everything like that. So that's pretty cool. What kind of name is? Now, I always thought Gene Pompa.
It's Pompa.
Pompa.
It's phonetic.
Pompa.
it's one time I was going to vote. Right, it was election day, and I was living in the Fairfax area, and there was a guy at the polling booth, and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "It's Gene Pompa." And he said, "I'm sorry." I said, "It's Pompa, Pompa." And he goes, "That is wonderfully phonetic." I said, "Oh, thank you." I never looked at it like that. But when I was younger, I would say Pompa always, and then you get to an age where you don't really care. Like the teacher would say Pompa in kindergarten or first grade, and I'd say it's not Pompa, it's Pompa. You know, I would correct them because I was young and passionate. And but then by third or fourth grade, when the teacher would say Gene Pompa, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm here." You know, I didn't bother to correct him anymore because by that point, when he's becoming those elementary school, the later grades, you just kind of want to fit in with everybody, so you don't go out of your way to stand out. And then what happened was, because I would pronounce it Pompa off and on sometimes, but then I did the Conan O'Brien show several times, right?
All right.
And Bianca, my daughter, when she'd be around the relatives, they would never pronounce our name Pompa. They would always pronounce it Pompa.
Uh-huh.
So Conan had said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Gene Pompa," right? And my daughter turned to me. At the time, she was like 3 years old. She said, "He said our name's Pompa. Our name's Pompa. You got to tell him that." So, all right, I'll tell him, you know. So the next time I did the show, I said, "Do you mind saying Pompa?" Like, that's actually how it's pronounced, you know.
Right.
And then they did that. And then I said, "All right, Bianca, we're going to watch it, you know, and watch the show." And I go, "Look at it. They're going to say Pompa this time, right?" And she goes, "Yeah, but you just stood up there and told jokes. Like, you still haven't sat on the sofa with them and got interviewed." Now she's like 5, and she sort of knows how late night works.
Yeah.
So because I didn't do panel, she was disappointed.
How long ago was it?
But I was trying to tell her, you know, it was a little over a decade ago, but it was late night with Conan O'Brien. I ended up doing 8 of them, you know. But I said to her, you know, it's a privilege just to do the show, you know, just to meet the criteria to do the stand-up segment, you know. And I said, I'm not an actor, you know, by trade, so those or a political figure or whatever, and those the couch interviews really relegated to that, unless you're like Steve Martin and you're plugging a film or something, you know.
Right.
But actually, you know, trying to break it down to her. Why her dad didn't do panel, so she would think less of me.
So where are you from originally then? You never really told me.
I'm from here. I'm from the city of Angels.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents were born here in the 30s, and
no kidding.
All my grandparents came from Mexico in the early 1900s, or at the turn of the century. And so my family's been in Los Angeles for over 100 years. It's always weird when I hear actors and comics and when they bitch about L.A. Because what they're really bitching about is that they moved here from Davenport, Iowa, or they moved here from, you know, who knows, you know, and they complain. I'm like, look, man, go back to Davenport, make your dreams happen there.
Exactly, yeah.
But the truth is, it's like, Los Angeles is not just an entertainment industry city.
Right.
But most people that bitch about it, they come here under superficial pretense.
Right.
And then they're surprised at the superficial pretense where they go. If you're from
Idaho. That's a good point. That's so true.
Yeah, if you're from Idaho and you want to be an actor or you want to be a writer, well, everything you're going to do, everything you're going to immerse yourself in is going to be superficial. You're going to go to barbecues that's going to be wannabe actors and writers. You're going to go to, cocktail parties or wannabe actors. So everyone you meet is superficial.
Right.
You know, they really are. But if you actually bother to go out and see the culture that exists in Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is very different than New York, you know, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but as a Mexican-American, my ancestors are indigenous to this area. You know?
Right.
They're not alien to North America. They didn't come from a ship or a boat from you know wherever, Ireland or Italian.
They go to
and your Jews all came
City.
to Statue of Liberty, so they they crossed the Atlantic Ocean to get here.
Right.
My ancestors didn't cross. They crossed the street because, you know, the Treaty of Guadalupe and Manifest Destiny, all that stuff that cut into Mexico's territory. So anyways, my point is simply that in Southern California, what you do get is Mexican culture, great Mexican culture. Not just from the newbies, you know, the recent immigrants. They're always 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you know.
Right.
Contrary to popular belief. not all Mexican Americans get along. We have a lot of different perspectives and experiences.
Of course, yeah.
But for myself, growing up, I was just an American kid. I never felt like I had a foot in Mexico because by the time you got to me, my parents' first language was English.
Okay.
And then my parents would speak Spanish to their parents.
Right.
But all my grandparents spoke English and Spanish.
Now, I was going to ask you, how did you get into comedy? What did your parents do? Were they into?
No. My dad was a bit of a scoundrel.
Uh-huh.
And so my mom kicked him to the curb when we were kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the late 60s, to be divorced was very stigmatized.
Of course,
society.
Yeah. Divorce? What?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't hang out with you. We can't talk to you. Yeah.
Her being Mexican American.
Now nobody cares. Yeah.
Her being Mexican American and divorced was like a double whammy.
Right.
And what happened with my father was, may he rest in peace. But what happened with my father was he became a drunk, and he fooled around with my mom. He wasn't working, and he would beat her.
Oh.
And so once he wasn't providing for the 4 children, my mom was a very virtuous person, not self-righteous, very virtuous. Virtuous bride, and had 4 children with one man that lost her virginity on her marriage, on her wedding night, all that stuff. She subscribed to everything that she was taught.
She's still
just to find out that that's not true. You know what I mean? Like on a certain level, that's not true. And so when she had threw my dad out, a lot of the other Mexican Americans in the neighborhood, women, would be like "Está loca," just because whatever. In Spanish, they'd say, just because he beat the shit out of her and cheated on her and didn't provide, she kicked him out. Hey, that's a lot of reasons to kick someone out.
Yeah, I think so.
He's not providing, and
what are you doing? You're cheating on me.
He has no positive influence on the kid. And then my dad, back then, drunk driving was really like, people were very cavalier about it.
Yeah, I know.
And one time my dad took me, because I wanted to go hang out with my dad, and he was drunk, and he passed out. When he got to my uncle's house, he passed out in the driveway, and I was in the back seat. And so that was the sort of a pivotal point. And my mom said, "All right, that's it," and she kicked him to the curb. Anyway, so the reason I bring up that background, so my mom was like, I think 26, and she had 4 children.
Wow.
Right, under 7 or under 8. But that's how Catholics did it back then. You had a big family.
Is that how you?
Although 4 children is not considered that big back in the 60s, believe it or not. It's not considered like a huge.
So you kind of went through like a rough time, with your parents, your dad, and all that. And then, is that how you got into comedy? You said you want to be funny,
No,
to kind of get through this. So
my
who
mom
inspired you? Yeah, because I got my comedy from my mom.
Well, mine came from my dad, probably the actual finesse and the timing, but my father was very witty and funny. But I see my mom now going through a tough time because she's got 4 kids and she's renting out this 2-bedroom house in Pico Rivera, and we don't have anything fancy. Everything in the cupboard is generic, staples, right, to make ends meet. My mom wouldn't go on welfare. She's a very proud woman, so she took 2 jobs. She worked 2 jobs. But anyways, so I saw my mom, always struggling. And one day we were watching a show, and I must have been about 4 or 5, and Bill Cosby. I'd never really seen a stand-up.
No, Bill Cosby.
I don't think so. Bill Cosby comes out.
He was great back then, yeah.
And
back in the 60s, yeah.
And the thing I liked about Bill Cosby was, I learned later on, but in the moment, this grown man came out on this TV and he talked for 5 or 6 minutes, doing stand-up. And my mom, who's having a rough time, is laughing her ass off. It brought her so much joy in that 6 minutes. And I'm laughing, and my sisters are laughing, and my brother's laughing. Like, we're all laughing at the same time at this grown-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing my mom so happy, I was like, oh, man, I want to do that. I want to do something that makes people like her happy. That's how I kind of looked at it. And it wasn't until years later that I even realized that Cosby was black, because most of the comics, as I got older and more acclimated, they would, like Flip Wilson was sort of a black comic to a certain extent.
Right. It's like black and white, yeah.
But So Cosby was a rare black comic in that everything he did was universal. It wasn't racially charged.
Right.
So I thought, okay, I'll be a Mexican
Until now.
I'll be
50 years later.
Yeah, but I'll be a Mexican American comic who's also not patronizing just his ethnicity to get a cheap laugh.
Right.
So that's what inspired me. So seeing my mom get taken out of her misery, or
So where was the first place you did stand-up comedy, and what year was it, and how old were you?
I did the Comedy Store, so that'd be 1989, and
okay.
I went up. I used to sell shoes at Nordstrom, so I would always be in a suit.
Right.
And so I watched it for about 2 years. At the Comedy Store, I'd hang out every Monday, and then finally, I put together a couple of minutes. And so one night I was sitting next to the owner, Mitzi, and she said, "Give him the light," talking about someone who's on stage.
Oh.
And I said, "How come you said to give him the light?" Right? I'm like, I'm young, so I don't care. So I just asked her, and she says, "'Cause he's just fucking around." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, So she goes, "Why don't you go on next?" I'm like, "Oh, all right, but so
yeah.
But whatever, I'm not going to turn it down." And so it's in the original room, and it's packed. And and I just told her, I said, "Oh, I missed the sign-ups." And then she said, "You go on next." I said, "All right." So I did the first joke, and it killed, like really killed. But I didn't know any stage mechanics. So I'd done the bit. The audience had stopped laughing, but I was still laughing. Like, I didn't know not to laugh at my own bits. So then I collected myself, and then I did a couple more minutes.
So you get basically,
No, but the last 3 minutes ate it. Then the first minute killed. Then the rest didn't.
Yeah.
And then I got off stage and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "You need to develop a stage presence and you need to develop material." I know that's everything, but when you're new, you're like, okay, stage presence and material, stage presence and material. But it's like the whole. She says, "Come back in 6 months." Okay. So then, what I did is I chipped away a little bit. I came back, didn't showcase well in front of her. Then I didn't do it for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And then I got yelled at once for being late at work. And then I'm like, okay, I can't do this. I might get stuck in this, And I just finished dropping out of college.
Oh, wow.
Dropped out of college. So I was like, okay, I got to go full force. So you were young.
You were like 17, 18 when you started?
No, I was 20. I want to say 22, 23.
Oh, okay.
So
same with me. That's when I started.
So I'm like, I want to. All right, if I'm going to do this, I gotta bail. Otherwise, I'll be in this dilemma forever. And so then I went after it a little bit more. And then I got passed at the Improv. This is like early 90s.
Right.
And then started doing TV spots. Because early 90s, there was a lot of TV shows you could do. Like, all of a sudden, I think in 1 year, I did one TV show a month. I do Caroline's. I do Comedy on the Road, a couple evening at the Improv, the A-List, Comics Only, 2 in Living Colors, MTV Half-Hour Comedy Hour, another MTV Half-Hour Comedy Hour. I mean, there were so many.
Wow, that's great. Those are good shows in Living Color,
Yeah, but just for Did
you hang out with Jim? Did you meet Jim Carrey by any chance? Or?
Yeah, he really liked. We did a bit on Living Color that they didn't let go to air. That Jim Carrey was really mad about, and they said it was too racially charged. And so what the bit was I would play the surfer guy. And Alexandra Wentworth, she's playing like this spokesperson on the boardwalk. And so they're selling these things called black blocker sunglasses. They're like blue blocker sunglasses, which is a big thing back then. But instead of blocking out the sun, they block out black people, so you don't have to wear. So you don't have to
really?
Look at black people, right? So they give me the sunglasses. And
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, so the young lady gives me the glasses.
Blacks and black people.
And I go, and so
go down, man. What are you blacking me out for, man?
So I look at these old 2 black guys playing chess, right? And I put on the black blocker sunglasses. Yeah. And I look at the old black guys playing chess, and I say, well, it's like the black dude's just vaporized. Does this mean I can't watch Family Matters? Right? Or some lines like that.
Right.
And then she says, that's a very small price to pay, whatever. So then Jim Carrey comes in as Bush, right? As Bush, the first Bush, I guess.
Oh, President Bush, yeah.
Yeah, and he says, look, Barb, no little brown ones, just 1,000 points of white, right? And then he says, what about other minorities we don't want to look at, right? And Jim Carrey says that in character, of course. And she says, I'm glad you asked. We also have Jew blockers. And then they show like these acidic Jews walking by. They like evaporate. So the censors
You can't see me. What's going on here?
Yeah, so the censors were like, no, it's too, it'll be offensive. And Keenan, his argument was, but, this is written by Jewish and black writers, so it's not like we're attacking anyone.
Right.
We're being self-deprecating. but that was the first sketch I worked on with Jim Carrey, and then the second sketch I did with him, I don't know if Keenan had left yet, maybe he hadn't, but the second sketch I had done with him was he was in a wheelchair, and we were knocking out, I think it was like a Michael Spinks, and Jamie Foxx was playing like a Michael Spinks character.
Oh.
If you knocked him out, you got a free dinner. If you knocked out the champ.
Okay.
But Jim Carrey was always nice. Matter of fact, when I did the character for the...
I've always wanted to meet him. He actually inspired me. Jim Carrey inspired me to do impressions and comedy.
Yeah, he's a nice... He's a very genuine person because he... when I was doing the sketch, he goes, I really like that character you do. But, I grew up in Southern California, so I knew surfer dudes like that.
Right.
And it wasn't a stereotypical cliche thing.
Yeah.
But I really knew those guys, What's going on, ladies? I'm Sparky. Would you like to buy some puka shells?
Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, that's why Spicoli did a good job because he lived in Santa Monica and Malibu. So he knew guys like that.
My time is your time, Mr. Hand.
And so mine was all... from Huntington, which was, the Surf City, USA.
Beach, that's right, yeah.
So those people were legit. Eventually it became cliche because people would do it in ways where, it wasn't really on point. But so he was nice and complimentary, and I only saw him a couple times after that, but he was always nice. We're not like best buddies or anything, but it was funny because
keep in contact with him at all?
No, it was funny was. My niece goes, she had to be like 4 years old, and he had just done Ace Ventura.
A great movie.
Ace Ventura. So he was really huge, and The Mask. So little kids really liked him. Little kids really took him.
Phenomenal.
And
movie.
so one time I remember being with my 4-year-old niece, Clarissa, and then she goes, are you a movie star, right? And I said, no, I've been on TV a few times. I go, I'm not a movie star. I said, I'm a stand-up comic. And then she goes, you know Jim Carrey? I said, yeah. And I felt good. I go, yeah.
Yes, I do. I know Jim Carrey.
Yes, your uncle does know Jim Carrey. And I don't really know that well. I just know from those couple of times that we worked together.
Yeah,
and
make it sound like,
but we're not,
So, dude, did you basically made a living doing comedy all these years? You never had any other jobs? Most comics I talk to, they have telemarketing jobs, sales jobs, or whatever.
No, one time I almost thought about selling cars. When my daughter was young, I didn't have enough gigs lined up, and I was like, all right. So I went to Toyota Manhattan Beach, and they hired me, and then I was like, and then I didn't want to do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get on the phone. And because it's funny because when you get threatened with a day job, there's nothing wrong having a day job,
right?
On top to support your art or whatever. But as a comic, when you get threatened with a day job, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go sell cars on the line for 6 to 10 hours a day. I'm like, you know what? If I get on the phone for 2 hours right now, I could probably book enough gigs.
Right, yeah. So
it creates a sense of urgency.
Right.
So we were living in Playa del Rey at the time, and so I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to just get on the phone and try to book some gigs. And that's what would normally happen. I remember one time, because I used to sell shoes at Nordstrom, and once you work at once you're at Nordstrom, and once you're in the system, you can come back during, like they have 2 big sales during the year, maybe 3 big sales during the year. you can come back in and work just during those sales and get commission. So you could pull down like $1,000 a week.
Wow.
Just selling shoes,
Mm-hmm.
So there was, I think, twice I went into Westside Pavilion. They had a Nordstrom's. And I worked there for 2 weeks. I picked up a couple grand. Because I was like, you know what, I can do that right now and see my daughter all day,
right,
And so I did that, and then I did Redondo Beach once. But those were the only times that I took outside of writing jobs on television, but I don't really count writing jobs on TV as day jobs. I consider those, they're writing jobs, and they pay a lot.
Right.
Yeah, but I've always been careful with my money. I don't live beyond my means. And,
well, you're right. That's what you got to do.
I have nice cars.
Like
I got
too.
a nice house and all that.
Right.
But I've never bit off more than I can chew.
Right. That's the way I am too.
Yeah. Plus, those things don't mean as much to me as they did when I was younger.
It's true. I was just talking about that. I've had the $500,000 condos. I've had the nice cars and go on the vacations and all that over the years. And I mentioned this on my broadcast, on my podcast before, that it's not about that. When you get older into your 40s and 50s, or even maybe your 30s, but most of the guys I talk to, sometimes they're really, really into the big car. In LA is like that too.
Well, I think when
the mansions and the cars and this and that, and I made this money and I did this money, and the whole industry.
It does seem more.
It doesn't matter about that.
If you're single though, like it seems like there's more sense of, like you want to front more when you're single. Once you're married, if you're doing keeping up with the Joneses, it's just so pedestrian. Like I've never been one of those, but I remember.
But my whole point is just like what you're saying is it's not about that, Gene. The whole thing is.
But if you're
do
what
you love to do, do what you love to do, and make money from that. That's the key. Because like some people do stand-up comedy for free.
But I get being in your 20s, early 30s, and wanting
I guess you're right,
a car to impress.
Right.
Right. But then after that, you kind of want a car that's reliable. Right?
Exactly.
And, a four-door is okay now, right?
Yes.
And by the way, a lot of four-doors now are high performance.
Two-door coupe, that's what I got.
Like the Beamer I have, and I'm not bragging, it's an 8-year-old Beamer. It's not like a brand new car. But that one is a four-door, and that handles great. And I have no reason to buy another car, I have another old Cadillac that's like a toy car. It's a 67 ragtop.
Yeah.
But that's like a toy car. That's like a hobby car,
Right.
And then the other car I use every day. And there's times I'll see a car that'll come out, and I'll be like, I wonder if I should, and I'm like, no, I don't want a payment. Because now a payment can be like close to what a mortgage used to be 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
If you buy a Tesla and you're looking at $80,000, you're looking at $1,200 a month. I'm like, I don't need a car that bad just to front. So it does change as you get older. Now, there's a few douchebags that even after they get married, they're still never happy.
Exactly.
Like they'll have a big house, but now they need another big house because their neighbor's house is big, and that's like a weird, perverted.
And I talked about this a few podcasts ago, and that's why I'm doing this podcast, and that's why I'm doing my show, is to teach everybody it's not about the big cars and the mansions and the money.
You become a dog chasing your tail. I mean, if you
you're never going to be happy.
Trying to fill that vacancy in your soul. It's like it's going to be
doesn't
an empty pit.
Right. I talked a few weeks ago about a gentleman I knew, was Michael King, and he was a billionaire, and he passed away at 67 years years old. So and he had the mansions, he had the cars.
That's interesting you bring that up because I was thinking about that.
But it's seriously, and I knew him. I did comedy for him. He's a nice guy. I know his cousins and I knew his brothers, everything like that. But it's not about that. It's about health, family, friends, health, and doing all that, and then doing something that you do for free, and you get paid very good money for doing it. That's the best thing.
But even I think when you hit your 40s, also, what happens? You start losing people, right?
Yeah, you do.
You experience death and loss. As you experience death and loss, those other things become less important. They do become less important.
Exactly.
And like I'll see someone pass away, and I'm like, right when I'm starting to feel bad because maybe my career's not exactly, one day it's not going exactly, the next day it's going great, whatever it is. And I think, hey, you know what? You're still here, and you're still in the mix. This guy's 50 and just died of a heart attack.
Exactly.
You're like, I don't want to go out. Like, I'm talking about like Bernie Mac when I read, a few years ago when he passed from influenza, whatever it was.
Did you know Bernie Mac by any chance? Did you work with him? Okay,
no,
I was just wondering, yeah.
But I was like,
that's right, Bernie Mac.
He left at 50.
I know.
That's early.
I know.
I'd rather have less, and I'm saying it's wonderful, and it was all, it's the way the cards are dealt, but I'd rather have less success and live to 70.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like on a certain,
Exactly.
Then I get to see my grandchildren, and I get, and so sometimes it takes death to have an appreciation for life, and not to be, like cliche.
Which is what I was going to get into, and everyone knows if they're out of the people that hear my show, they always ask me, say, John, boy, I love to hear about some of these stories that these guys went through, because they, bitch and complain about their lives, and then kind of what you said, people pass away, and I used to love Greg Giraldo, and he was very funny, and I remember hanging out with you at the Improv a few years ago, and you told me a story that you knew him very well, and tell us some stories about the people that passed away and some of the bad things that happened to you. Greg, maybe.
Those losses with like friends that were comics, I haven't had a lot. I've only lost a few friends. I've been fortunate, now as I get older. But with Greg, the thing that was great about Greg was he sort of, even though he'd been doing comedy less amount of time than me, he was smarter than me, and his passion for stand-up was interesting. He had a much more honest approach. Like when I first met him, he said, hey, you're Gene Pompa. And I said, yeah, and we met at Caroline's. He goes, you're that Mexican-American comic who doesn't do Mexican-American jokes. That's what he said, right?
That's what he said.
And I said, oh, yeah, well, I go, yeah, kind of. I said, I touch on it. I go, but I don't want to be like, George Lopez and Paul Rodriguez, they already have that covered. So I don't want to, like, be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And plus, it's not the way I grew up, and so that was my reason. And Giraldo would talk a little bit about being Spanish Colombian, and he was a working class kid, even though he went to Columbia and he went to Harvard.
That's right.
He was just super smart. He went to Harvard Law, I mean.
Wow.
And practiced law just for a year. But what was inspiring about Greg was the evolution of his stand-up. Like the first few years that I knew him, it was a little more conventional. There still had that New York edge to it. Mm-hmm. It was smart, but it had a little bit of New York edge. But then it just took on a whole nother dimension where he was brutally honest about everything and just on point about everything and didn't worry about blowback. Like he said what he thought was legit and got a laugh out of it. People might disagree with some of it. But he wasn't like, it was funny. It was more, he wasn't a hardcore political comment.
Right.
As much as it was a political observation.
Now, how did he pass away? He got his drugs?
I'm not sure, really. I mean, it was a mixture of a lot of things. He had some demons. And
now, anything, when I talked to Rich Scheidner and Perry and Grace and myself, we've all had instances where we almost died. And it's pretty damn scary.
The closest I ever
happened to
from
you,
drugs, you mean, or
no,
boozing?
Just in general.
I've had probably
accidents, drugs, alcohol. I mean,
I think I've had 3 probably near-death experiences.
What's the main one that scared the hell out of you?
Well, the first one, unbeknownst to me, that I didn't know. Well, I didn't know that it was a near-death experience when it happened, but I put my arm through a shower door. I don't know if you can see the scar.
Yeah.
When I was about 10 or 11, they didn't always have shatter glass on shower doors. They weren't regulated to have shatter glass.
That's right.
So you could break a shower door and it would be jagged glass.
That's right, yeah.
So it ripped open my wrist. And you can see it's like probably 8 inches. And I could have easily died, and I just lost feelings in my right fingers. But I didn't know. But that was like a brush with death that I didn't realize until a few years later. Oh, that was actually a close call, you know.
Anything?
I remember my mom crying when I got home from emergency, and she was worried because she kind of knew that it was a situation that was closed. But outside of that, really...
Anything recently, like in the past 5-10 years at all?
No, and then another time when I was young...
So it's another time, yeah.
Another time when I was young, I was screwing around with drugs, and mostly I just smoked pot, you know, when I was... started smoking pot when I was 16.
Right.
In Boone's Farm and, you know, Mickey Big Mouths and stuff like that, you know, Henry Weinhardt's. So I was just beer and pot guy when I was 16 and 17. Well, one day someone got some Darvon from someone's mom's medicine cabinet. So I was taking these Darvon, and they weren't working, so I took another one. And then, unbeknownst to me, like, I was just completely out of it, and I almost OD'd. And then shortly thereafter, a report came out how dangerous Darvon was. So that was another close call of me experimenting. But aside from that, I haven't just like surfing or body surfing, just going in the ocean is the only close calls I've had to death. You know, there's times when you go up swimming in the ocean, there's times when you're young where you catch a wave lopsided, right, and you just start tumbling in your body. You're like, that's it. I guess this is how I'm going.
Well,
you can't really regain control.
Exactly.
You just go, okay. I guess.
It's funny you said that because a few shows I talked about in my book that I wrote, What's a Little Wind, and these stories, inspirational, motivational stories. And it's funny that you said that because back in 1986, I almost died drowning. I went swimming with a friend of mine, and you know, and
were you guys swimming at night or during the day?
No, during the day.
Okay.
It was like 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was in Honolulu, Hawaii. I won this trip because I used to sell siding. We won this trip, so I got this amazing deal to go with like 7 or 8 people. Me, my friend Pete, and John were out there, and me and John are swimming, and all of a sudden, I'm going further and further out in the ocean.
Oh, man.
And the waves and eddies took me out. I didn't know. I was like a 25-year-old kid, you know. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, I can't swim back. And
Oh, that's a horrible feeling.
And I'm telling you, I was drowning. I was
yeah.
But I looked up, and if you're a religious guy like I am, I prayed. And the second I prayed, I said, God, I don't want to die. I'm too young. Second that happened, I ended up somehow swimming to the right.
Oh, treading a little water and
right, treading parallel.
Yeah.
And then the waves pushed me back in, and the same thing happened to my friend John. The exact same time, he was drowning too, and then he also prayed, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a sand dune pops up under his feet.
Oh wow, that's remarkable.
Seriously. And he swam back. And
it did take me a minute to realize not to swim against you. You want to go. Yeah, you want to go parallel. You want to go crossways. You don't want to go against the wave because you won't beat it.
Right.
You'll just wear yourself down.
Right. But if you go to the right or to the left, and then there's
and as
you get away from the waves.
Yeah, and as it dissipates, you'll catch something that'll take you a little further.
Exactly.
Then you'll be close enough.
Push you back in. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
But that does. I'll tell you, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, and I used to do this when I was younger, not too much so, but we'd go grunting hunting like at midnight, and we'd go in the water and the waves. But I had a bunch of friends with me. But one of the things that kills people so quickly is swimming at night in the ocean. They don't realize how dangerous. So many deaths.
I never have.
So many
I never will.
So many deaths happen from these young dumbasses that are like in their 20s. They've had a few beers. They're on the pier, and they're going to impress their friends by jumping off the pier.
Like the movie Jaws. Remember they do that?
But they're going to jump into the water, at 11 o'clock at night from the pier. Even if it's summer, if it's Southern Cal, and even if the water's warm.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's pitch dark once you get in the ocean water.
Exactly.
And your equilibrium gets thrown off, and you have no idea which way is up. Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't know which way you kind of know where the coast is, but also you've combined alcohol with this other disorientation. A lot of people die from swimming at night in the ocean because they're young, and when you're young,
you can always get killed by sharks.
Yeah, but when you're young, you feel invincible, right?
Exactly, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. I remember one time in Rochester, I think it's so funny you brought that up, that me and my friend Don walked across this small little river, and it was you know, it's kind of like a waterway and everything. But if we slipped, it was only like 1 foot to 2 feet. But we're like walking through, and it's like we didn't even care about the water. We didn't care about basically 20 yards away from us was a waterfall. If we slipped, I would have been dead.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
and we didn't even care. We just had a few drinks. Remember, 20, 21 years old, and getting high, drinking. And it's like, yeah. And just go over here and walk across the, all right, dude, you sure you want to? Yeah, come on, man. So we're doing it, and we're walking through there. And then all of a sudden we go across the creek, We look back and said, wow, dude, we could have died. Look at how long this freaking, it was like, 100-foot waterfall, literally 20 yards away from us.
And that's different because you're younger and naive.
We didn't know. We didn't care. Yeah.
But you guys, it wasn't like you guys were trying to be crazy.
Exactly.
But sometimes people try to be crazy. Try to go, look what I'm going to do because I'm toasted.
Right,
I'm gonna,
exactly.
And then it backfires. And
it's funny. Where are we, Marcus? Oh, cool. Wow. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty funny that I did that and everything. So, now as we all know, I get emails and comments from people about, again, how you get into making people laugh. I think I mentioned in my first 1 or 2 shows that what inspired me was how bummed out I was about Robin Williams and Philip Seymour Hoffman and other people. They had it, the whole life ahead of them, and they had.
Well, Robin was a trip because a few months before Robin passed away.
Have you met him before?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
okay, that's
great guy.
That's great.
As a matter of fact, I ran into him the night that he fell off the wagon. He was at the Improv, and I walked in, and a couple of comics, I think maybe Alex Raymundo or whoever it was, a couple of comics came, and they're like, I just had a shot with Robin Williams. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
A tequila shot with Robin Williams, I'm like, I thought the guy was sober,
Right.
And
that's right.
So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. And so I was sitting in the corner of the old bar, at the Melrose Improv when it was facing Melrose.
Exactly.
And I used to always sit in the corner just because I could be left, just want to chill out.
That's where we used to hang out, like we said, yeah.
Yeah, and before you do a set, you could go over your notes and,
right.
have to talk to a lot of people, And I like people, so I want to talk to them, but when I don't, I think I got to hide a little bit. So Robin came and sat down next to me, and he said, looks like a good spot. I go, yeah, this keeps everyone away. They don't want to be bothered. And we just talked briefly about he just became a grandfather and stuff. And
what year was this? Do you remember?
It was about 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And asked me if I wanted a drink, and I said, sure, let's get a glass of wine. And then I saw him a few minutes later, and he was out front. He wasn't like wasted; he was just buzzed,
Yeah.
And then he had a couple chicks. He had a chick in each arm, and but he was just messing around. He wasn't trying to get in their pants. I think
right.
he was.
He's married. Yeah.
And he was like, "Who's got the doobage?" And it was like the one night I didn't bring any pot with me, because now pot's for all intents and purposes is pretty legal.
Doobage, okay. Yes.
But I didn't have it, but I didn't care. So,
Gene, where's the doobies?
But what was weird is like a few months before he killed himself, I rarely talk about it, but my father killed himself about 12 years ago. My dad hung himself from a tree.
Oh my God!
At my front yard of my aunt's house in East LA, right?
Oh my God!
I'm sorry. So he was suffering from depression, and
oh boy!
So he hung himself, and. So on Father's Day on Facebook, which I don't usually put anything heavy on Facebook, but every Father's Day after my dad passed, it was always kind of mixed, And you get over it, and you start remembering good things and forgetting anything that's bad. That's what happens with someone you love and care about. Like you kind of forget and forgive things that you were mad about, or hung up on.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I had written this thing, and I was basically just trying to say that depression is not something you just snap out of. While you're sad, be happy. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And I was just trying to say something about that, but also I wanted to mention how much I relished being a dad. I just have one child, and now she's 19. But I mean, that's been the most wonderful thing ever. It's almost to a fault where I can be so damn happy at times that I don't thirst for more. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'll be like, I probably should write that spec script to get on staff. But I'm like, well, my daughter's college is kind of covered. The mortgage is covered.
Right.
I'm pretty happy where I'm at. So the problem with happiness is that you end up like, when you become domestically happy, you lose incentive to find more happiness because you're fairly content.
Right.
So it can work against you a little bit. But what was weird was 3 months later, after I posted that thing on Facebook, and people were very kind on Facebook, my friends, and about it, was then Robin had taken his own life. And so my dad was 64 and a half when he killed himself. And I used to try to do a bit, it never worked, but I used to try to do a bit where I'd say my dad killed himself at 64 and a half. Apparently he wanted to retire early. Right. Right, because retirement age is 65.
Oh, right.
So, but it never got a laugh. It just got a groan. And
I can see deliberate,
Yeah.
permanently retired.
So just made the audience uncomfortable. But comics would say, "Yeah, do the bit. It'll be funny." And then it was ever funny because comics are horrible.
Of course,
they'll tell you if they think they can talk you into doing something unfunny on stage.
Yeah,
they're going to talk you into that.
Yeah.
So
that's why my whole point. Yeah, my whole point about this show is that most people think comedians are always funny and always happy.
Oh, dark things happen.
Are you kidding me? Most of the comics I meet are depressed
and they're
bummed
ball-busters.
Out, ball busters, poor. Crappy families, whatever, that kind of thing, and
But I remember I was talking to
the opposite of me. Thank God, I had a good
But
family.
I was talking to a friend of mine who knew up in San Francisco. So my daughter was going to University of San Francisco. So we happened to be up there the weekend after Robin had died. The weekend after he died, we had to go to San Francisco for orientation for my daughter. Well, in every bar in San Francisco, there was like a picture of Robin. So by the hotel we were staying at. I went to a couple of bars, and I went to one bar, and the guy knew Robin really well, and he was telling me, Robin would come in there once in a while, and just have a Diet Coke or whatever. He wasn't really drinking. But then I was talking to this friend of mine, and she's a talent coordinator for a couple of clubs up there, and I was saying, the thing with me that puzzled me with my dad was. He was 64. Now, Robin was 63 when he killed himself. So my perspective or my belief was like, well, they're already over the hump. How are they suffering from depression? If you're 63 and you're a grandfather and you have lovely grandkids and all your children turned out cool.
Exactly.
Like, how do you get in that place?
Work forever, right? And I mean, millions of dollars,
Yeah, but I think what happens is maybe you lose a sense of purpose or I don't know, to be honest. But we were kind of puzzled by that mystery. Like, at 63, wouldn't you think you'd be over it? You don't have a incurable disease coming up. So you're not anticipating being this quality of life where you're going to be in this constant pain.
Right.
So that's not a reason.
But I heard Robin had that, though. He had some kind of disease.
Yeah, but a lot of that was speculation. But the truth is, he had bouts with depression off and on.
That's right.
But a lot of ex-alcoholics or recovering alcoholics deal with depression.
Okay.
Because alcohol is a depressant.
Right.
Which people get. That's why they get sober, and all of a sudden they're faced with reality, and they're not in this upper mood. So then they go, okay, I'll self-medicate and have a couple glasses of wine or whatever their poison is.
You're saying that because I was just going to say, at the end of at the end of my show, is that I get into talking about some of the good positive things that happened to you. So and you just said it before I even asked you. It's not about the money, and you have a nice, decent eight-year-old car, nice house, but you're more into a family.
Yeah.
And your daughter, and you're happily married, and all that.
I have everything I need.
You know, so that's exactly. And I was going to say, tell the listeners who are listening, whether you're a comedian or an actor, or it doesn't matter. What is your advice to everybody about having a good life?
Well, it's easier said than done, but as a comic, we kind of have access to a lot of women. We really do. Whether it's girls that we work with that are managers of the club, or their agents, or their managers in comedy, or their other female comics, or their female servers or bartenders. So we have a lot of women at our disposal. Now, that said, when you find someone who's like a partner in crime in life, you know, and my wife and I are on the outs right now, but that's no big deal. It's not. It's amicable, you know.
Well,
it's not a. We're not mean.
But
but when you find someone like, you know, we were together off and on for 20 years, and you got a partner in crime like that, it helps navigate life. And it's true, like, you know, my daughter brought me a lot more joy than I anticipated, because I was not. I was thinking I probably won't be a father. You know,
right.
I really thought, you know, well, you travel too much, things are a little.
Right.
So, but then, you know, there's a certain point where the happiness or the contentment, like I said before, can create some complacency. But you do realize at a certain point, hey, this is all a gift. This is pretty cool, you know. I've got some wonderful friends. Now, some of your friends are going to fall to the wayside. Either they fall to the wayside because they're struggling and they don't like that you're happy.
Exactly.
They
and
fall
jealousy.
to the wayside
Jealousy
that
is a big,
you don't
huge
drink
thing.
anymore and they still drink, or whatever it is. Jealousy can be a factor.
Yes.
Intimidation.
Exactly.
You know, and so you lose some friends, but then you gain other friends. And you know, and friendships are important. I'm not saying, you know, to have 100 friends, but you know, I've got just enough friendships that keeps me elevated, and friendships are key. Health is key, because when you take care of your health, even though I used to think it was cliche, it elevates your spirit, you know.
Exactly. Well,
so I work out once or twice a week. Not because I want to be cut, but what happens is all of a sudden I notice I got more energy.
Right.
And I enjoy things more, and I can.
And mentally, it's good for you. Makes you feel good.
Yeah, you do.
I did a huge workout a couple nights ago, and it's like, my God, it was great.
But I had a guy explain to me once about writing, and this is where it gets tricky for a comedian. You got to constantly be writing. And writing is like the opposite of sex. I forget who told me that. It might have been Rick Siegel, a comedian manager. Mm-hmm. But he said, when you really want sex, you know, you're horny or you're, you know, built up, whatever it is. You want sex, you want to make love, whatever. So then you have sex, and it's over with. You're like, that wasn't so great. Why was I so worried and stressed about that? Right? Because you're like,
it's true.
What was I so freaked out about? You know?
I'm laughing because I talked about that with a friend of mine a couple of days ago. Yeah. It's like, oh man, I just can't wait to get laid.
Yeah,
I can't stand it. I haven't been laid in like 6 months. Yeah. Dude, so what? You know? It's like, you do it, and like 5 minutes later, it's over, you know?
That's it.
And it's great.
And then you relax for a couple of days.
Exactly, relax.
But then it comes back, you know, it's just like you eat. It's like when you eat, you get hungry again, you know.
Exactly.
But he said writing is this thing that you dread doing. But once you do it, once you write 3 or 4 pages, and you get in that rhythm and that groove.
Right, exactly. It's true.
After that, you feel great.
Exactly.
You know, you feel like, wow.
It's true.
This is like having sex during sex.
Yeah, exactly. Or when you do a good set. When you do a good 7, 8, 9 minute set, oh my God, I feel so good.
This is great.
Or if you film, you know, videotape something, and you know.
If you prepare for your set, like for instance, you write out your notes and blah blah blah.
Right.
And you do what you're supposed to do. When you get done, it feels spectacular.
Exactly.
But it's true. It is like the opposite of sex, because sex, I'll tell you, and I know men were notorious for it, but you know how women want to cuddle and stuff. If you're not really into the girl,
I love the cuddling and kissing.
Yeah, but you have to really like her.
Seriously.
But you have to, because otherwise it becomes this stick that we have that we have to stick somewhere and empty it so we can go on with our day. You know.
Right, exactly.
But if it's someone you really care about, the kissing and hugging afterwards is better than the other part.
Seriously, it really is. It's so true what you're saying, man. I agree. So, what's your final thought? So basically, that's.
I'll tell you one thing, man. The one thing that I was so concerned about when I started as a stand-up, because my mom was, working class girl from East LA, and she would. There wasn't gang infestation back then when Mom was growing up, so it was a pretty mellow area at the time. And actually, East LA back in the 30s and 40s was Jewish, Mexican, German, and Japanese.
Wow. Okay.
It was quite a mix. That's where Cantor's moved from.
Oh, okay.
Cantor's the famous Jewish deli.
Yeah, I love Cantor's.
In the 40s, they moved from East LA to Fairfax.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
But nonetheless, what you kind of realize is that generation, their perspective was work at the post office, work for Northrop, work for McDonnell Douglas, work for Department of Social Services. In other words, work union, get security, right?
Right.
So when I pursued stand-up, my mom was like, well, that's a very topsy-turvy thing, and it's very hot and cold.
Right.
And it is. But in fact, it's ended up being one of the more steady jobs because what happened in our generation, or at least the past 20 years, McDonnell Douglas closed, Rockwell closed, Ford Motor Company in Pico Rivera closed.
Right.
So all these jobs that that my friends' parents did for 30 or 40 years, and they would get their gold watch and everything, those are gone. If you work the same job for 10 to 15 years in this day and age, that's considered high longevity.
Right.
So as a comic, and I'm 24 years in, right?
That's great,
I'm knocking on 25's door. This has been a pretty consistent career path. Actually hasn't been that topsy-turvy. It's been fairly consistent. What was considered this sort of flaky occupation now has some consistency.
And you're making a little. The key, Gene, is that you're making money, which you love to do, that we used to do for free.
Yeah, and that part is very true. Like, and I used to marginalize that. No, but I'll make so much money that I won't mind that I hate my job. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you would think.
And I tell people this 100 times to my friends and
as long as I have a lot of money, I don't mind hating my job for 60 hours a week. Then you're burned out. Then you become an alcoholic. Yeah. Because you got to self-medicate because you're miserable.
It's better to do a job you love for less money than do a job to make more money and not like it and hate it and be miserable. I was making $150,000 a year. I was selling mortgages and things like that years ago. And was I happy? No, not really. I mean,
I would say human beings.
Of course I had the nice condo and all that. Of course, yeah. But I didn't really do stand-up. I didn't pursue my acting. And then I dropped that. In the past 4 or 5 years, I started pursuing, sitcoms and writing. And now I'm writing a song, my podcast. I wrote a book. Everyone knows What's a Little Wind. So I'm doing all these creative things. Yeah. And even if I don't make a lot of money with it, I make some money. I don't care. Because I love doing it.
Elevates your spirit so much. It really does.
It really does.
And I'm not a new age person or anything like that, but I've noticed it. When I discipline myself and I do my morning pages, because I read The Artist Way, right?
Oh.
Because I was lacking writing discipline. And so in it, she says, Julia Cameron, she says, just write 3 pages. Just empty your head every morning on 3 pages. It can be all chicken scratch. Yeah. Whenever I do that, whenever I actually do my morning pages, my day feels great.
Yeah,
because my head is empty. Right. I start with a clean table.
That's right.
And it's a good.
I'm more. I do most of my writing at night, but even at nighttime, it's great. It's great when I go to bed. It's like when I wrote my book and things, and
then you can come back and get back in the morning and attack.
Now, really quick, do you have anything cool you're working on now? Tell anybody.
I just did the recent thing, most recent.
I remember you were telling me you're writing something, or working on something. I can't remember.
No, I just put together a writing package for the Colbert Show on CBS.
Oh, good.
But what was I going to say? Oh, I just did Ron White's Salute to the Troops on CMT. It was myself, Kathleen Madigan, Finesse Mitchell, and Ron White.
That's great.
That was cool. That aired the first time last month. And then right now I'm working on this show. We're actually going to shoot it on Tuesday called Not Your Father's Talk Show.
What's it about?
Actually, I'm going to use my daughter. My daughter's a theater major, so she plays the host of a talk show, and I play her dad, but I'm the sidekick. And and every so often I interrupt her interviews with her guests, and then she admonishes me. So that's why it's called Not Your Father's Talk Show, because basically the idea is that I left for a week on a sabbatical and they had her take over because she was like an intern.
Yeah.
And it resonated and people liked her more.
Right.
So they relegated me to a sidekick now for the time being. But obviously I'm never going to go back behind the desk.
That's funny. Well, even with that, that's great. You got the things, and I mentioned that in this studio with Tom and Mike is one of our arrangers. I'm going to be doing a country song, believe it or not. So hopefully that's going to be done in the next week or so. But I just want to say to everybody, thank you again for listening. And it was great inspiration from my friend Gene Pompa. Again, I've known you for Pompa.
Yes, sir.
Quite a while. And he had some great stories, man. And he had a lot of inspirational things, a lot of things I never knew. We've talked 100 times over the years, but you never told me about these things. That's why I'd love to have you come aboard, you know?
Oh, thanks.
And do that.
I know I'm one of those anomalies where I was born and raised in Los Angeles. It's always strange when I talk to people because Greg Giraldo, may he rest in peace. He was such a New Yorker. He would say something derogatory about L.A., and then in the midst of it, he goes, shit, that's right, you're from Los Angeles. He goes, you know what? You're the only dick that I know that I got to apologize when I start saying bad things about L.A., because you're the only guy I know that grew up in L.A.
Right.
Right. He goes, exactly. And you liked it. You
liked it, exactly.
Yeah, I liked it. You know, it was simple.
Greg, oh, man. That's funny. Yeah, so that's our show for today. Thank you again for everyone for listening. Thank you for all the nice comments and emails, and you know, people come up to me and say they enjoy the show and it makes them think better about their lives. And so, I guess I'm doing the right thing by being here. So thank you so much. I will obviously have another show in the next week or so, and if everything goes good, we'll have some pretty big names out here coming soon. So we're working on it, and we'll let you know. So again, thank you so much. It's John Perinci, Comics Karma. Again, thanks for James Pompa. And again, follow your dreams. It's not about the money. It's do what you love to do because you only have one life. God bless.
Amen.